In the previous video, we have discussed all the great things about living on an island, such as here in Phuket, Thailand. But in this video specifically, we're talking about the negative side, because of course there's no darkness without light, there's no pros without cons. So today, before you consider moving onto an island and living a long term or retiring permanently, here are some points you should consider before moving here. First of all, because we're near the beach and there's a lot of sand, it's actually not as clean as you think. Sometimes there's high wind that will blow the sand in your face as you're sitting or lying on the beach just trying to get a tan or something, or people walking by and it would just kick a bunch of sand in your face. Otherwise, you could be swimming and then when you get up, sand is attached to all over your body, your feet, your clothing, your towel, and you're gonna bring that home. When you re-shower again in your own washroom, you might clog the drain. Another thing is if you guys are into volleyball or something like that and you're on the beach playing volleyball with some guys and they just spike the ball on you, or you're trying to go up for a block and all that sand is going right in your face, your eyes, your mouth, and it's very uncomfortable. So being near the beach, one of the negative things is actually the sand. As much as you think that is an advantage, however, if you live here for the long run, you'll notice how annoying the sand can be. The second negative point is there's so much mosquitoes here. As a person that don't like mosquito and the itchy bite, and it's just irritating to have to deal with mosquitoes, this is one of the worst places for it because we're near like a large body of water. There's a lot of plants and bushes where mosquito can like hibernate and they'll breed. And sometimes if you open the window, just like this one to your balcony, they'll get right into your home. If you leave it open for like 5-10 minutes, especially at nighttime when it's dark outside and you have light inside, they'll just go in there and there'll be a swarm of them right before you go to bed, and you have to chase after them and kill them before they get to you. So because you are a foreigner coming to a country like Vietnam, Thailand, or Cambodia, you'll get bites more often than the local person. It's just something about your blood that's different that attracts all these mosquitoes. And if you're renting a place that has windows that are not very secured, sometime at nighttime they'll fly in. Because of ventilation issues, sometimes washroom, for example, in Asia, they'll build it so that there's some opening always, so that when you're showering, then all that steam can go out. But that's the way that the mosquito and all the bugs is going to get into your house as well. And sometimes they carry diseases and things like that, so it's not something to be joking about. Number 3 is actually near a touristy area like here in Patong. The water is highly polluted because there's a lot of skidoos and boats that are out there. Most of them are servicing tourists. They're taking them for a ride or parasailing or whatnot, or they're renting them and riding them around. And because of that, all the fuel and all this really dirty stuff is seeping into the water. And sometimes you can see like on the surface, there's a glimmering glow, and that's from the oil or the fuel that's coming out. More or less, there's going to be some dirty aspect to the beach. And imagine every single day they start, 7, 8 a.m. until like 6, 7 p.m. at nighttime. Every day, every week, year over year, it's going to add up, and you swim in that. Sometimes you mistakenly, drink some of that water because you're trying to swim. The waves hitting, and it gets over your skin, your eyes, your ear. Definitely, it's not the cleanest. If you're in an island, of course, like a small one, like Koh Phangan or Phi Phi Island or something like that, then the water is more pure because there are less boats and things like that out there. But in here, there's a lot of activities around tourists, so be careful when you swim in that water. Short term, it should be okay, but if you're living here long term and you're trying to swim like almost every day, then it could be something to be concerned about, especially if you have sensitive skin. Number 4 is that tourists, they always crowd this place, so it's never really peaceful. There's always a lot of cars and trash, and because the trash is collecting up from all the restaurants and shops and the street side vendors, you're gonna see that there's a lot of trash bags that are left outside in the middle of the day when the sun is beating down and the water and stuff is leaking out of it, and it creates this really foul smell around that area for about 50-100 meter radius. And like I said, because there's so much tourists, then you never really have peace on the island. You're thinking you're escaping the busy city to go live on a nice, beautiful, quiet island, but it's not like that. Actually, most of the time it's going to be loud, especially if you live near like the nightlife area like Bangla Road. So be prepared to be kept up at night with drunk tourists screaming and shouting at each other, music blasting, and people calling in customers and inviting them into their bars and things like that. By the way, that can be a very annoying point as well. Sometimes I'm walking around and I see that people are always trying to invite you into whether massage shops or their bars or trying to go on a tour. I don't know what it is, but every single thing you're walking across, they're always trying to invite you to come in. Even the taxi guys and things like that, the tuk-tuk guys. And I know it's their business, but I'm wondering how efficient it is, when you're walking around and you try to enjoy yourself and they just invite everybody to come in. Even if you have food in your hand already, they'll invite you into the restaurants. Probably they'll miss 90% of the time, but they're always going to try. Number 5 is that it's very expensive here, especially in areas like Koh Samui, Koh Phangan, here in Phuket. It's very expensive because there are so many tourists. If you just go about 10-20 minutes away, it's going to be a lot cheaper. So if you guys want to be near the beach, near Bangla Road, all the party, Jangsalang Mall, everything's going to be expensive. The food is going to run you 150 to 200 baht per dish, whereas if you go just a little bit further, it's going to be like 60-70 baht. It just tells you what the local really pay for food when you go and kind of interact with people in the local area. So perhaps if you're here for a short term, you do want to be in the center, but if you guys living here long term, I bet you're gonna want to move further away from this area just to escape the tourists, the noise, but also to save some money as well. Point number 6 is that if you're on an island that is quite remote, especially one that doesn't have a direct route like Koh Phangan, you may need to fly over or take a ferry. What this means is that if you guys have a medical emergency, it's going to be very hard for them to reach you or for you to go to a nice facility. Here in Phuket, even though it's an island, there's actually a huge hospital nearby, same with Pattaya and things like that. But if you guys are living on a small island and there's no direct access to a hospital or a big bridge to go inland, you have to consider that because they have to airlift you out. It's going to take time. And if you have some kind of emergency, like if you're older and trying to retire here, then healthcare is very important. You guys have to consider that as well. Point number 7 is actually a very serious one. If you walk around Phuket, you're going to see a tsunami warning zone. We had an earthquake in Myanmar that shook some part of Thailand, including the capital city, Bangkok. And here in Phuket, I felt it as well, even though it was very minor, but my bed was just shaking and I thought it was like a washing machine or something like that beneath me. Luckily, it's only for a few seconds. It was just shaking. It feels like you're like lightheaded on your bed. So that can cause some issue if that earthquake happened closer to sea. So about 21 years ago in 2004, about 50,000 people passed away from a tsunami that hit right in the center of Phuket. So it's very dangerous by living near the ocean because you never know how Mother Nature is going to react. And when they're able to identify that something's going to happen, it literally takes a few minutes for the water to reach land. So you have to get away and quick. You need to have some kind of like something to float, like a buoy or a life jacket or something like that. Otherwise, if you're in a sturdy building, you should be fine if you're higher. Like for example, in 2004, they said people who are on the 5th level or higher, they were safe. There's a woman like taking care of her children and she saw the water seep into her hotel room and literally it stopped right her bed and she was on the 5th floor and she was spared. But unfortunately, thousands of other people, tens of thousands of people were not spared. And there's documentary movies that's made about this. So it's very serious. People getting frightened, people making TikTok video and fear mongering. But again, always take safety precaution if you're living near the beach, the ocean, on an island somewhere. Even if there is no tsunami, there's going to be big tropical storms. You're going to see like the trees blowing, getting knocked down during very heavy rain season, like monsoon season. So if you're out there and let's say you get caught in the rain and then you're trying to run home, by the time you get home, you'll be soaking wet, and a lot of time people get sick, especially if you have like bad, weak immune system. You can get sick very easily because you get wet, you get hot and cold, you go inside with AC. You got to wash up right away, dry your hair, otherwise you can get sick. It actually happened to me when I underestimated it and I was playing volleyball in the rain. And I thought, we're all young, 10 of us were playing there and it's okay, it's not a big problem. I played for about an hour or so, and then of course the next day I got sick, got a little bit of a fever, and literally it took me almost a week to recover from that. So you guys have to be very concerned regarding the weather when you're out here, and always keep watch for a hurricane warning. Number 8 is that it sometimes can get quite boring. Actually, that's very understandable because we're on an island. Even one as built up like here in Phuket, it can get boring because sometimes like there's a lot of rain, it gets hot in the afternoon time, and it's quite small as well. You're always doing the same thing. It's not like the big city life where you have so many mega malls like in Bangkok or Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City. Here there's only like 1 or 2 smaller malls. There's so much that you can do until you get really bored. You can go hiking, relax, enjoy yourself in the sun. If you're here for a week or 2, you're like, it's fantastic, I love it, it's quiet, tranquil, and you enjoy the life. However, you're here for about 6 months to a year, you're gonna see that it get quite boring. That's why a lot of people who retire here, oftentimes they'll take a break away from Phuket. They'll go somewhere like Bali or Cambodia, go into Vietnam, Philippines, and then come back to Thailand again in order to enjoy the vibe. Because if you're here for a long time, you may miss the hustle and bustle, especially if you grew up around the big city in the middle of the center. Here it's going to be a big change. So that's it for all the negative points about living on an island. What do you guys think? Did I miss anything? If you agree or disagree with anything, leave it in the comment below. And if you live in an island right now, let us know how you like it, and do you recommend moving and living permanently on an island.